what I've learned now is like there's power in being a badass female. And like, I'm a freaking working mom. Watch me.
Hello and welcome to episode 228 of the Smart Agents Podcast. As always, my name is Michael Walter and I'll be your host. On today's episode, we're joined by realtor, entrepreneur, coach, and mom of three, Rachel Adams-Lee. Launching her real estate career in 2012, Rachel has been named to Wall Street Journal's top 1,000 agents in the United States since 2015. Throughout our conversation, Rachel shares how she was able to close 39 deals her first year by committing to knocking on 200 doors and hosting 3 open houses a week. From there, she talks about launching her team, the Rachel Adams-Lee Group, and shifting focus to growing her brand on social media. We also dive into how Rachel balances work life with that of a busy mom by setting clear boundaries with her clients. But before we get on with today's featured interview, if you or someone else on your team has an incredible story of real estate success or tips to share with our community, send us a message to feedback@smartagents.com. We're always on the lookout for new guests to inspire our listeners. And lastly, if you enjoy this conversation and want to hear more, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents Podcast. We stream on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. All right, let's get on with our conversation with Rachel Adams-Lee. If you're interested in learning more or connecting with Rachel, I've included several links in the episode description. All right, well, really the way I like to start everything out is if you could just introduce yourself to us a little bit. Tell us who you are and where you are located.
Awesome. So my name is Rachel Adams-Lee. I'm located in Northern California. Most people know Sacramento area, but I live in El Dorado Hills. And I got in real estate in 2012. So when I first started in real estate, I was working a full-time job at a real estate office, and I was unlicensed, but I was like the office manager. And it's funny because my grandma was a realtor, my dad was a realtor, and I was like, I'm never going to do that. But I found myself at this real estate office, and at that point in my life, I was in a really unhealthy marriage. I'm paycheck behind a paycheck. And I was like, oh, there has to be more to life than this. And I remember going to this, there was this like sales class coming to my area, and it was called Bold, and I decided I would call in sick and I would go to this class. I was like, something has to change. So I went to this class, and I heard a quote that kind of rocked my world. It was, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And so I was like, change the way I look at things. Like, I always was like, well, I know that I'm in a safe job. I'd never been commission based before, and I'd never counted on myself. And so I was like, well, what if I do that? So change the way you look at things. Instead of being like, well, it's $15 an hour I can count on. I was like, what if I count on me? Like, what if I invest in me? So I did an accelerated program and got licensed in real estate in 90 days. And I jumped in like with both feet. And by both feet, I literally mean both feet. My first year in real estate was intense. I door knocked 200 doors every single week and did 3 open houses every week. So knocked 200 doors, did 3 open houses, and I didn't sell any houses for the first 4 months, which, as you can imagine, I was questioning all my life choices, but ended up selling 39 houses my first year, and then 109 the second, and 123 the third. So 3 years in, I hit Wall Street Journal's top 1,000 agents in the country. Ended up getting a divorce, and I spent like 3 years just really focusing on like personal growth and kind of becoming like the person I needed to become, and launched a team. And now we're 13 years into this gig, and I am fortunate to get to coach realtors all around the world. I massively transitioned my lead generation from the door knocking and the open houses to social media. I always wanted to be a wife and a mom, and a healthy marriage. And I spent, like I said, 3 years doing the personal growth, and then went on Tinder and swiped right and met my husband. And he's like my absolute best friend, my cheerleader. Like, he's everything. He's like if a Disney like prince walked off that was like lovely and all the things, you know. Yeah. And so we run our business together. We have 3 boys. We have 3 little guys. We have Henry, Harrison, and Hayden. Henry is 5, Harrison is 3, and Hayden is 2. So life is busy and full and bananas, and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, take me back to those first couple of years, the door knocking and really kind of like hitting it hard. And, I mean, it obviously led to great success, but just talk to me about how busy and just how, that's a lot to do.
Yeah, it was a lot. I think they say like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And I just saw all these realtors like banging their head against a wall. And like, so frustrated with the market and be like, oh, the market sucks. And I was like, yeah, it does. But what are you going to do about it? Like, I don't have time for the market to suck and not make money. So I was like, well, I'm going to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. And I knew that like most people would door knock 1 day a week. So I was like, well, I can do 5. So I door knocked. My thing was to door knock 200 doors. I'm very chatty. So if I got someone at the door, I'm going to spend some time talking to them. So I could do 75 doors in 2 hours. If I didn't talk to that many people, but I always had like really good flyers. And on one page, I would have like call to action. So like something that was like an open house, a new listing, something real estate specific. On the other side, I called it my 12 touch value campaign. I would have like local pumpkin patch locations or Christmas tree lighting locations or like 10% off to the new ice cream shop that just opened. Everything on the other side of that page was like hyper local value and making me the market expert. And so when I knocked the doors, I came up with all different scripts. Like, I feel like, whenever you go to someone's door, their walls up and they're like, what are you trying to sell me? So I was like, if I offer value every time, they're not going to be so pissed off. You know what I mean? And so I just got really intentional about making sure that every time I was in front of someone, I was offering value to them and making their life better. And so I would always lead with the real estate side. But the other thing too, and this is like kind of important, Michael, is like in the beginning, everyone was like, you need to be Rachel Adams Lee with Keller Williams Realty. And I was like, hi, I'm Rachel Adams Lee with the Keller Williams. I'm your local realtor. And like, it was just so salesy. And so it was like, because I run a team. So I was like, I'm Rachel Adams Lee with Keller Williams Realty with the Rachel Adams Lee group. It was just such a mouthful. And everyone's like, okay, I'm closing my door on you. Yeah. So instead I'm like, hey, my name's Rachel and I'm a local realtor. And that was how I introduced myself. And same thing when I would dial, I stopped doing this super formal, like crazy intro. And I just made it like I'm a human. Hey, my name's Rachel. I'm a local realtor. And then when I started to sell a lot of houses, I was like, I'm a top local realtor. And like just simple little changes. But I think the thing was like, I didn't have the sales in the beginning. So I didn't have like necessarily the confidence to be like, oh, I've sold, 30 houses in your neighborhood. But what I did is I committed to scripts. I committed to script practice. I committed to the basic stuff that's boring that people didn't want to do. But then I could overcome every objection. And I had value every time I knocked on the door. So like I kind of became unstoppable knocking. And I was like stoked to do it. And in fact, with my real estate team, one of the things that I've committed to with them is once a month, we're going to do a team door knocking day. And we're literally going to like come up with the proper, like, so we always have new listings and we always have just solds. So we're going to come up with the specific flyer, and marketing is my jam. I'm like super intentional and I just like really looking good. I always have a vibe for my social media and my marketing. So we're going to have like a specific flyer. We're all going to get our flyers printed ahead of time by our admin. Then we're going to meet at a coffee shop. We're going to go over the script and we're going to script practice and role play. Then we're going to hit the neighborhood. And the way that I've explained it to them is like, okay, we're going to find a neighborhood. We're both going to go down a side of the street. So it's like you have a buddy system. And then I'm going to take turns going with each agent and letting them hear me, talk to them, convert them, have the conversation. And then we're going to talk follow up after. But it's my way of like, agents are so in their way and they're so nervous. And what do I say and how do I say it? And so I'm like, I believe that leaders need to lead by example. And so that is kind of our approach with the knocking. And as far as the open houses, I didn't have the listings in the beginning. So I had to go to my office and ask the agents. And I actually ended up coming up with this like really cool value sheet that says like, let me bring the buyer to you. Because the one thing a seller wants is the buyer. So we all know the agents hold open houses for leads. We all know this. But like, that's not what I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell that I'm going to bring the buyer for their listing. I'm going to door knock this many doors around the listing. I'm going to dial as well. I'm going to give them positive and negative feedback. I think like one of the biggest issues is most realtors like will hold an open house and then you have to like stalk them to find out what the heck happened, how many groups came through. And so like, I think like for me, communication became my love language. And I was just like, I'm going to make myself stand out in this market, in this industry. And eventually people started to trust that I wasn't going anywhere and they started to give me business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, from the start, I mean, who were you? Did you have a mentor? Did you have somebody that and you said you you went to some of these seminars. What was it that really kind of sparked that whole like, okay, I need to provide value and I need to come off as a human when I'm doing this so that I don't have like the big salesy, fly.
I wish I could tell you I had like one specific mentor in real estate. I think like podcasts were a thing yet. It was 2012. So like that wasn't a thing yet, Right. I went to every sales class I could take. I read books. I really like, I focused in any training my market center brought in, or like a speaker they brought in, or our local association. I was like a student of the game. I soaked in everything I could. And then when podcasts hit and books, like I wanted to learn what I could. And then I took what resonated with me and I dropped what didn't.
Yeah.
At that point, there wasn't a ton of women on stages, and there wasn't a ton of women featured. And so I was like, definitely. And I tend to have, like, I've always been told that I have a very like male personality. Like I'm a pretty dominant force. And so for a long time, I really focused on that. And I was just like, I have to be strong. I have to be this, I have to be that. What I've learned now is like, there's power in being a badass female. Yeah. And like, I'm a freaking working mom. Watch me. Like there's nothing I can't do. And I'm like, so now I'm just like super passionate about helping other working moms like really achieve their potential and like see what they can do in their business. But I really was just super intentional on like who I wanted to become. And so I was like, every morning when I woke up, I was like, I'm a top producer in the marketplace. I'm a top producer. I got really into positive affirmations. I was like, I am tight. I'm toned. I drink a gallon of water a day. I was not tight. I was not toned. I was probably drinking a gallon of wine a day at the time. But I was like, who do I want to become? So I have to keep doing and saying the things that the person that I want to become would do. And then eventually, like, I became the top producer and I started to get the listings and I got known in my market center. And then I started getting asked to speak around the country and like all these things happened. But it was because I kept making this series of small, good choices. There's a book by Darren Hardy that is the compound effect. And he talks about how good small choices add up, but it's the same thing with bad small choices. Like you want to lose weight, like have a salad every day. You want to gain weight, have chocolate cake every day. You know what I mean? But it's like, I just got so intentional about like what I was saying, who I was saying it to, when I was saying it. And I got my lead generation done in the morning because I wanted to get it out of the way so I could like do whatever I wanted for the rest of the day. Some people are like, oh, I don't go to bed till I got a listing appointment. That was never my style. I didn't want to put that kind of pressure on me, but I did tell myself that I was going to have like office hours and treat my business like a business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I have to imagine, with your personal development journey that you kind of went on, was that like, the time blocking type things and those types of things that kind of help systematize, those, cause I know like for me, even when I'm doing things, cause I get pulled in a lot of different directions, but I'll put timers on my phone. Like, all right, this is the specific time that I'm working on this, whether it's, editing a podcast or whatever. Like I can't do anything else unless I focus.
100%. Yeah. My life is ran by my calendar. Like sometimes it's 15-minute increments. Other times my husband is like, always wants me to be the best version of me. Like when you say like you meet someone who like makes you a better person, like he is that for me. And one day he came to me in the kitchen and he was like, we have to find a solution. I was like, to what? And he was like, you are always on the go. You have this like frenetic energy inside you. Like, it's just like inside me is like vibrating like this. And he was just like, it's not good for us. It's not good for the kids. Like, and so we looked at my calendar and we put in what we call white space. And white space is a block where there's nothing there. Now the nothing there gets filled, trust me, with the way that our world works, right? Like the lockbox didn't get put on, the appraiser's calling, whatever. But I didn't leave myself any breathe room. I didn't even have time to go pee. Like I was just so back to back. My meals were all ate at my computer desk. Like I just didn't give myself a moment to freaking breathe. And it doesn't work. Like I remember in the beginning of my career, when I was still married in my first marriage, like I worked 7 a.m. till like 10:30 at night every single day. Now I was trying to escape what was going on at home, but what happened is I was doing everything for everybody else, my clients, my friends, my community, and it left me with nothing inside. And I actually ended up in the hospital because I was dehydrated. I was like, oh my gosh, I stopped drinking freaking water. I just was going. I was going and doing, and I had just like no balance to any of this. And it was super unhealthy. And it took a toll on me, And so I really had to like take a step back and like look at how I was leading my life. And this is pre-kids, but I've always wanted to be a mom. And, my husband said like, if we're going to have kids, we have to have a life that can support that. And right now, like you have no capacity to give anything to anyone else. You're not even giving to yourself. And so I kind of went on then like this journey of like, okay, what does self-care look like for me? And how can I fit this balance piece in? Because now that we have 3 boys, like It's bananas. It's
Yeah.
crazy,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm trying to convince him for a fourth, and he's like, "You're freaking nuts, chick."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I know, but so is that a no or?"
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah, it's I just have two kids, and my schedule every single night I'm at a football field or a baseball field.
yeah.
It's something.
How old are your kids?
So my son is 10 and my daughter will be 7 in 2 weeks.
Okay,
And
cool. Yeah, yeah.
it's
So you're in it.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm like diapers still, so mine's
Yeah.
like different. But
Yeah.
like, I'm like, okay, at some point we're gonna have like three sporting events in the same
Mhm.
day. And I'm like, we're gonna have to divide and conquer and figure that out. And with my clients too, I think also like in the very beginning when I had kids, I was like, okay, my baby's crying. I have to run in the other side of the room. I don't want them to know that I'm a mom and then it's gonna like affect my job. And I was just like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I'm like, I attract the right people. I work with so many different types of clients. And sometimes it's like seniors that are transitioning out of their home. And most of the time, a lot of times it's like young families, because I think that's kind of like what we are. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm a mama. I've got three kids. You might hear them screaming in the background, but I will be here for you. And they're like, sounds good. And so it's like, I think embracing that is like a beautiful thing versus like running from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, how did not only your personal career, but the team and the people working with you, how did all that change, when you really kind of setting those boundaries and kind
Yeah.
of, designing that life, not just around the
Good
career,
question.
but around, your personal life as well.
Well, I think the thing too is like I'm a people pleaser. So I never want to let anybody down. I want everyone to feel loved and cared about, my clients and also my team. And my second year in real estate, I launched a team. When we went from 39 to 109 transactions, that was with a showing agent and an admin and myself. I and now we have 10 agents on the team, including me. And I I am in the office 2 days a week. So I'm in the office on Tuesday and Thursday, unless we have a team meeting, which is the second and fourth Wednesday of every month, so then I'm in the office Tuesday, Wednesday. Once a month, we have a door knocking day. Once a month, we have a content creation day. I do weekly reels for realtors. And so for my real estate team, I'm going to do the reels for them instead of make them pay for it. And so it was like really having to step back and like look at what setting the expectation looked like. So in the beginning, I would just like want to join my team, and they find me on social and they're like, "You seem great," and I'm like, "Cool, let's do this." And then it blew up in my face because I didn't ever set the expectation and have standards, and I didn't know how to lead people. I was young. I was like 27. Like I didn't know what I didn't know. And so after my first team blowing up and like losing a friend over it, I realized like I need to really dig into what leadership looks like. And so it literally is, whether it's like working with a realtor on my team, a lender, a property manager, I don't care. I literally am like, I take a piece of paper and I draw a line down the middle and I'm like, okay, this is what you can expect from me. And this is what I expect from you. And so now we have team standards. So when I interview someone to be on my real estate team, I tell them what it's like when they work with me. I tell them what the schedule is going to be. I set the expectation for what life is going to look like when we work together. And it's been so powerful. And they also know, like, I have office hours. I will not respond unless it's an emergency and it's like a random, like, offer has to be in by 9 o'clock. I don't talk to them after 6 o'clock at night. I don't. And they know if they need me, of course I will make it happen. But I also don't take listing appointments past 5 o'clock at night unless the client can't do it because of work. Like I try everything I can to make sure that I'm home to make dinner for my kids because that matters to me. I like to have breakfast with my kids because that matters to me. I go to the gym 3 days a week because that matters to me and my husband. We do that together. We do date night once a week on Friday. Every Friday we have date night, and we have two different nannies that trade off that watch the kids.
Mm-hmm.
We have a full-time nanny that's here 7:30 in the morning until 4:30 Monday through Friday. We have a house cleaner. Like I have leverage set up in my life and systems so that I can lead the life that I want and be the kind of mom that I want and the kind of wife that I want because my people deserve that. But it didn't happen overnight. It's been like messy. And I was like, I remember one time going to a seminar and I was like newer in real estate, but starting to, close some deals. And Gary Keller's, the founder of Keller Williams, he was like, right now, I want you to think of the one thing in your life that you do that you hate doing. What is the one, like you never want to do it again? And I was like, in my head, like the first thing that popped in was laundry. I'm like, I freaking hate laundry. And then he was like, what can you do to never have to do that again? And I found a laundry service, and I have not done laundry since. And I mean, now it's part of our job description for a nanny is they do our laundry and the kids' laundry.
Mhm.
But it's like, it's finding the things that you're not good at or that are not your strengths and leveraging it out. But because I'm consistent with my lead generation real estate, because I built the business and I had the foundations with the script practice and with my following my schedule, I was able to make enough money to be able to do these things and have the leverage that I have now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really do like the fact that you said that it's not an overnight thing. Like
No.
you can read all these books and you can tell you need to, set these personal boundaries and all these things, but that does not happen overnight.
No.
And I appreciate you saying that. But how did your relationship with your clients change when you started doing these things? It started becoming, being more authentic, saying, hey, you might hear the screaming kid and it's going to be, that's my life.
Yeah. So I actually started doing like in the initial buyer and listing consultation, I have this sheet called a getting to know you sheet, which is where they put their name, email, phone number, like their hobbies, that kind of thing. And so I came up with this like script that kind of like changed the boundary conversation for me. And so say that you're my client, okay? And we're sitting down and you're going to buy a home. I'm like, oh my gosh, Michael, I'm so excited that you're buying a home this year. Like this is such a big deal. Like I can't wait to help you build wealth in real estate. I want you to know that sometimes buying a home can feel all consuming, and you're going to be thinking about it at the grocery store, and you're going to be like, just, you're watching, home improvement shows, and all of a sudden, like, this is your jam. But I also want to give you some balance to your life, and I want you to still be able to like breathe and enjoy your two kids and your life and just your work and all that you do. So I want to make sure I respect your boundaries, Michael. When would you say is the time that you get to the office in the morning and you kind of start your work day?
I'm usually 7:45.
7:45. Okay, cool. Yep. So 7:45. And when do you get home, start to unwind for the day, maybe prep for dinner, that kind of thing?
Usually about 4:30.
4:30. Okay. So 7:45 to 4:30. Okay. So is that probably the best to say that's like the best time to snag you is during the day in those hours?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So my hours, you're pretty similar to me. So I'm actually available from 9 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. So if you need anything from me, Michael, that's the best time to reach me, and I'll try to respect your hours as well. Of course, if anything pops up that's an emergency, like shoot me a text and I'll do my very best to get back to you. You're like, okay, cool. So I just set a boundary with you if I'm available from 9 till 6. But what happens is you get home, you have your new portal set up, you pop open a bottle of wine with your wife, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I found the house. It's 9:30. I'm going to text Rachel. So if you shoot me a text at 9:30, it's not an emergency. Maybe it might feel like one for you, and I respond, then I now set my new boundary as 9:30. So it was like, if I wasn't respecting my boundary, how could I ever expect you to? And so I got really intentional with having that conversation and setting my boundary. And what happens now, Michael, is like somebody will shoot me a text at 8:30 at night. But the way that they say it now is, hey, I know it's after hours, and hey, I've got this, and so they don't expect me to respond. And you know what I do? I don't freaking respond. I wait till the next day. Now they're the first conversation I have when I'm ready to work in the morning. But like having that conversation is extremely powerful.
Before we dive into our next topic, I have a question. Agents, are you ready to build instant trust with the sellers and buyers you meet? Well, with today's sponsor, Authorify, you can become a published author and gain instant credibility with potential clients. You'll easily win listings, and buyers will want you to represent them as their agent. Imagine handing somebody your book instead of a business card and watching them realize that you're the real deal and want to list with you. Even better, you can try this out for free because Authorify is giving you a free sample book so you can see exactly how it works. Simply go to authorify.com/sample to claim your free sample book now. I did want to ask you, and you mentioned it, before we started rolling, about how, social media and how, social media in general has become, a really big, lead generation platform for you. And just what did you do on social media, and how are you using that to, portray your real self, and so people get a sense of that authentic you before. Yeah. You're really having to have these conversations sometimes.
So that's an 8-week class I teach. But essentially, I remember getting into real estate and people were saying we were like used car salesmen. And I was like, gosh, why do they think that about us? Like, why do they think we're so slimy? And it was just because most realtors were like, how much money can I make? How many houses I can sell? And I was like, how many families could I help? Like, what could this look like? And most realtors on social media were like, look at my new listing. Look at my open house. Look at the award I just got. Look how great I am. So I decided I'm self-taught on social. I decided that I was really going to focus on social media and add value every day to my audience. And I was going to do one of two things. I was either going to educate them or entertain them. I was either going to educate or entertain. And so every day when I logged in, those were my two goals, either to teach them something or make them laugh. And I started really focusing on social. And my first year, I think I got like 17 referrals, then 30, then 50. Now we get over 100 referrals every single year. And I use Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Those are my three primary. I post everything on Instagram and then I repost it on Facebook. I don't have them linked because the algorithm doesn't like that. I've gotten like obsessed with what the algorithm, like understanding the algorithm and knowing who my audience is and what they're looking for. And I mean, I think of social media like my online business card. So when someone goes on my page, and if you go on my page on Instagram or Facebook, like you will know exactly who I am in 2 seconds. One, you see my bio and it tells you who I am and what I do, and what I'm interested in. And then, but if you scroll, you're going to notice, you're going to see 5 different things that I talk about. And I call them my pillars of content. And when I coach any realtor on building a business through social, I tell them this. People might find you because you're in real estate, but they're going to stick around because of who you are and how you make them feel. Okay, who you are and how you make them feel. You have to be more than just selling houses because real estate's what you do. It's not who you are. And so for me, I got really intentional on the conversations I was having. And I'm like, all right, if I'm going to be doing this freaking thing in real estate, like, what does this look like? And so I definitely talk about real estate and being an entrepreneur. I also talk about being a wife and a mom. I talk about postpartum body image because after having 3 kids and 4 losses and fertility issues and all the things and the medications, like I gained a lot of weight. And I got really passionate this last year about losing weight the right way. And so I lost like 55 pounds in 7 months. And I turned it into a program because I can't help it because that's just like literally who I am as a person. But like it for me was like, there's so many other people that are struggling with the same things you are, but if you don't talk about it, you don't know. And so I got really intentional that the 5 pillars of content that I was going to talk about were the things that make me me. Like if you met me, in an elevator and you were like, had my, 5 minutes to chat with me, you would learn about all 5 of these things that make me tick. And then you might have found me initially because I'm a realtor, but then you're like, oh, I'd actually be friends with her. I'd want to hang out with her on the weekend. And that's kind of what keeps people around. And then I got intentional in like how often to post and what to post and when to post and the hooks and calls to action and like all the sexy stuff.
Right. Absolutely. And you mentioned it, the 8-week course. So tell me, about the coaching and where people can, hook up with that and learn more about that if they are interested in, really kind of diving into those kind of things.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. All of it's under Rachel Adams Lee. I got really intentional about coaching other realtors because everybody was like, Rachel, how are you doing this? I want to do this too. And so I do these one-on-one audits with realtors where I sit down and we dig into your social content. And you do have to have a little bit of thick skin because we're going to tear it apart a little bit. But then we help optimize your bio so that the right clients are finding you on social. We come up with your 5 pillars of content. And then together, we come up with 50 pieces of posts that you can do. So actual 50 pieces of content that you can put on your social media that's there to get maximum engagement and maximum leverage so that people are commenting on your posts and sharing your posts. That's the other thing is I want highly shareable content. So like the 5 best date spots that you need to know about in your city, the 3 secret hikes in Sacramento County, like, the 4 best dog parks. Like these are the things that are highly, highly shareable and they make you the local expert. I get freaking jazzed about it because it's like, that is why people come to me as a realtor because they're like, I literally have people all the time to me that like one lady came to me because I was just talking about a new park that was just developed and I'm talking about the park and I'm showing all about it. And she was like, I learned about the park and then I realized you were a realtor and I thought, gosh, she knows all the things. And literally my call to action in the park is like, call your mama bestie and set up a play date. I'm not like use me for real estate, but the thing is 20% of the time I'm talking about real estate. 20% of the time I'm super consistent. 80% of the time is everything else, but it keeps people coming back. And then one of the other things, I have different coaching courses for like a masterclass on social called Hello Social. But I think the other thing I do for realtors is something called the weekly reels. and I have hundreds of realtors doing this with me, where every single week I take a trending reel in real estate or trending reel on Instagram, and I turn it to be for real estate. And then what happens is the agents send me the raw footage, and I tell them exactly what to shoot. They send it to me by Saturday at midnight, and then a week later they get the content. And so every single week they're getting that, but I'm writing the caption, I'm putting the hook on there, I'm editing their video, I'm giving them the trending audio, I'm giving them the hashtags, their geo hashtags. It's totally done for them. And what's cool is the engagement goes up. Like I always have them send me their insights, because I'm like, this is cool. Watch what this is going to do to your business. And it's like their insights are up like 200%, 400% engagement. Like, and it's like people just don't know what to do. They're so lost on social, and there is so the thing, and it's always changing. And so you're like, how do I do this? So my thing was, and I always think about this, like, how can I make things easier for realtors? What can I take off their plate that they're not good at, that I am? And so I'm always like, how can I fill this next gap for them,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I really, the 50 posts, the different things, around the community. I think the more you can make yourself that like digital mayor of your market, whatever size it is. Yep. I mean, 100%. Where I live is kind of in between the actual city of St. Augustine and the city of Jacksonville, but there's these great little communities and neighborhoods that, I mean, I know a couple of my personal friends are like the digital mayor of the town of Nocatee, and they crush it because they, when somebody's moving into town, that's who pops up when things search, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is. Yeah. And I think that's the way to go, is you got to be the one providing that value and being, that community advocate.
100%. Yep. I mean, is it like, I remember hearing that in a training one time, to be the mayor of your town. And then with social, you can be the digital mayor. And it's like, everybody knows who you are. And when they think of real estate, they think of you, but it's because you're not talking just about real estate. You're talking about the local things that they care about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And by doing that, I feel like, that goes in with the whole, you're attracting the people that you're going to want to work with, that make things fun and make things enjoyable, to where, if something is a little bit stressful at home, or whether it's, is stressful with the transaction, at least it's with people that you enjoy being around.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they always say, like, people work with people they like. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, all the time, I'm like, I want to be friends with my clients after, unless they suck. Then I'm like, yeah, we're good here. Don't give me a review. We'll call it what it is, and not every client's awesome. Like, not every client sees eye to eye. I just want to, it depends. Like, I've gone on a listing presentation where I know I'm not going to get the listing just because we can't agree on the price. And I'm not just trying to put a sign in your yard. I actually want to sell your house. I highly track my days on market. And if someone's going to overprice their house, I know it's negatively going to affect my days on market. And I'm not trying to I want to actually sell their home. I want to help them achieve their goal. But if they're unrealistic about it, like, we have to have that conversation too.
Yeah, absolutely. With the agents that you're coaching, and, through whether it's, the social media type things, or even the personal development, the people that work with you on your team, how have you seen their careers, kind of take off and blossom when they kind of start getting a little bit of focus on things?
Yeah, it's really cool, because we're always looking to grow a team with the right people. And I had one agent that was with me 8 years, one with me 10 years, and some people are like, I don't like taking on new agents. Like, I like new agents because they don't have the bad habits yet. And I can teach them the right way how to do it. And experienced agents that we join, we were just really transparent with them. Like, you're going to have to relearn some of the things that you do. Like, that's just how that works. But what we do is when someone's joining our team, we have a 2-week pre-launch where it's 2 weeks, and it's like they're learning their skills, the marketing, the buyer process, the seller process, everything there is to be like specific to the Rachel Adams Lee group. And that is like my 2 weeks to learn how, to date them, to see who they are and how they show up. Because people can interview well, but how they actually show up in a meeting and trainings is totally different. And then if that goes well, then we actually have an 86-day launch. We put them in right after that. The average new agent going through our launch closes or pins 3.4 transactions, and the average seasoned agent closes 8.9. And it is script based, man. It is lead generation focused. It is back to the freaking basics. One day we literally have them do, it's called mass action day. They have to dial 333 people in a day. But I want to know if they have grit. I want to know if they can hang. What's really freaking cool is and I set the expectation with them. I'm like, listen to me. your first few deals, I expect to come from your database. These are the people who like you, who love you, who want to refer business to you, but you have to tell them who you are. You have to tell them that you just joined a top team in the country and like you're now in real estate and you'd be so honored if they send the business your way. And what's cool is like, we had an agent, the most an agent's on our team is 40 deals a year. But that changed their entire life. They were able to buy rental properties. They were able to feed their family, go on vacations, and that to me is a powerful thing. And this is a brand new agent who never knew real estate, but stayed with our team and he just grew. And like, that's really cool, and so I think for the agents who really plug into the system, like I constantly get messages like, oh my gosh, like, and I'm big on like, I do, we do, you do. So I call myself the team mentor and I'm their partner. So if we go on a listing, if we want a buyer presentation, I'm always their partner. It's never just them. But they call me their mentor, and like not to the client's always partner, but like in our world, they call me their mentor. And I'm like, okay, when we go on a listing appointment, first you're going to come with me and I'm going to say mostly everything. You're just going to soak it in. Eventually you're going to start to say less and I start to say more. I'm sorry. I start to say less, you start to say more. And then eventually you're doing it on your own. And so our agents know that like they're never alone. And all the time they're like, how do I respond to this? And I'll shoot them back a text message. Instagram, I make their posts for them. Like I help them, but I am teaching them how to fish. I don't just do it for them. Yesterday I had an agent say, okay, what questions do I ask the listing agent before I show this property? And I said, I love you. And I want you to go back to your pre-launch tracker and find that and then send me the questions you're going to ask. And she's like, got it. And it's like, I think too often we just like going to tell them the answer. I heard this really cool theory one time and it was three before me. Before you ask me, I want you to look 3 different places, find 3 different resources, and then come to me. And that was really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm a big, like, for me, even just personally, like I hate asking somebody something where I know like I can find it somewhere,
Google it,
yeah, like I can figure it out. But I have had to get better over the years of not just giving that information right away and being like, hey, here's a direction. I'm going to point you down the path and you got to go figure it out, because I think that, it just makes sure that it actually sticks with them. But
I know. And I've had it too, where I literally go to type out the answer and then I have to like force myself to delete it and be like, nope, go let them find it. Cause otherwise they're always going to come to you. Always, because they don't know how to find it themselves. And we have to empower people that like, you are smart, you can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, for the agents that are listening to this, whether, they're new or they've been in the business for a while, but, they're not working for somebody like you that's, pushing them and really, setting up the systems to, help them thrive.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that they can do, and not by not saying, go find a different brokerage to work for, but things that they can do on their own,
I would say like the first thing is like, I want you to think of your business like the leg of a chair. There's 4 strong legs to a chair that hold up that foundation. You got to figure out what the foundation is to your business. I call it the legs of lead generation chair. So for me, one of those legs, so literally you would take pen and paper and you'd write down like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then number 1, you're going to write down your database. Those are the people who like you, who love you, who refer business. Then you have to come up with 3 other ways that you're going to build your business. Now, if I was a new realtor, one of them is going to be open house. It's non-freaking negotiable. You're literally sitting in a building where people come to you and say, I want what you have. Yeah. So like, to me, that's an absolute no-brainer is open houses. And then door knocking is really good. Dialing, if you want to do that, like I think you got to figure out what your outbound lead generation efforts are going to look like. For me, social media is 100% a platform. All the agents on our team, social media is one of the legs of their lead generation chair, because I teach them how to freaking do it and do it well and do it consistently. I think as a new realtor, if you're not on social, you're going to get left behind. So like you have to be on social media. And I have people taking classes with me that are like 82, and I have people taking it that are like 18. So like you have to be on social. But coming up with what your 4 legs of your lead generation chair look like, and then looking at your calendar and treating your business like a business. Have a start time and a stop time. Set some boundaries around it. It is okay if it's hard for you to get those boundaries in the beginning. That script that I shared with you guys earlier for setting boundaries, I had that on my YouTube channel. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you can find that there, the exact script. And then what you'll notice too on the YouTube is like, if I talk to you about a script, then if you go into the description of that video, it's going to have the script written out. So then you can like print it out. But like don't underestimate the power of script practice, because I know it's not sexy and I know it can be boring, but it also arms you to have the weapons you need to be able to handle any freaking conversation. Like I'm like down if anyone gives me objections because I know how to overcome it. And I'm not just trying to like be salesy. I know what's in their best interest. If I'm sitting in front of them, they need what I'm selling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I mean, obviously, this is a conversation that we could go in so many different directions and go on for a really long time. But I know you're very busy, and I really do appreciate you taking the time. And we will definitely be sharing all of your social links and everything like that. So again, I really do appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was super fun.
I really want to thank Rachel for taking the time to join us today and share how she has built such a successful business. Remember, if you're interested in connecting with Rachel or learning more about her coaching programs, be sure to check out the episode description. So once again, if you think you or someone else on your team has an incredible story or real estate tips to share with our community, send us a message to feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts and make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.